It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Anako's here, Jason Snell, Alex Lindsay, and the public betas are here. The pros, the cons, the pluses, the minuses, and most importantly, should you install it? Next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 930, recorded Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. Enter Jiggle mode. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show we cover the latest Apple news. Jason Snell very kindly decided to come up and say
It's
hi.
me.
It's a me. He's not on a green screen. If he were, could I do this? Oh.
He could not. I'm here in the studio, giving it one last ride. Also, my power is shut off at home, and there's guys on my roof hammering, and I couldn't do a show.
No, but we're glad you're here, and it is as we have mentioned, and we'll probably be more public about it in days to come. Our last day in the studio will be August 8th. And we have a big truck coming tomorrow to take stuff to my attic. Speaking of attics, here is Mr. Andy Anako. He's not in his attic. He's in his library. Hi, Andy.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It is so. The great thing about the conference room today is that no one has used it all day, so it's been doing nothing but chilling since no bodies in here to warm things up. No doors opening and closing. Honestly, I wish I had brought some like prosciutto, some salamis to hang, because this is the perfect environment for both podcasting and the storage of deli meats. This is going to be a great show.
Yeah, and it's fresh smelling, like nobody's been in there. It's just clean.
Not in 2 hours, but for now, yes. It's going to smell like Andy in 2 hours.
2 hours, it will smell like Andy. And you don't want to do that. Also with us from his attic, Alex Lindsay. His attic's a little fancier than most.
I was going to say, I can stop whenever I wanted, Leo. I can stop. I was thinking about a different addict. I was
drinking. He's a coffee addict.
I can stop my coffee.
Of course, Alex does office hours, and he has been my ex officio consigliere to help me build this attic studio that we're building.
I'm excited.
I am too. I'm sad, mostly. It's just the next...
I think about it like, it'd be great to have a studio, and then I go, if I need one.
It's really expensive. That's the problem. But it's a great luxury. Yeah. I mean, it's fun to come in here, and there's people. And
it is. It's a lot of fun, but I mean... Honestly, I started doing my independent thing almost 10 years ago exactly now. And
wow, congratulations.
And thank you. Yeah, it's coming up.
When's your anniversary?
September.
Nice. We'll
September 9th when the Apple Watch was announced.
From my attic to yours,
and,
your garage.
And then we were all laid off the next day.
Oh, geez.
And then I started Six Colors on September 16th. So nice. It's going to be coming up 10 years. But, what I'm saying is the technology has advanced so much.
Yeah, it really has.
The internet connections that you can get, the video and audio processing that you don't need a TV studio even to do TV.
No, you watch the news channels, you watch CNN, people are in their
COVID
kitchen.
Reset everything, right?
Yeah, COVID changed it all.
And this is a great example. I've got stuff in a backpack, and it's not even like necessarily the most compact stuff I could have taken with me, but I've got a 4K camera, I've got lighting, I've got a really good microphone, I've got gigabit internet. I've got two screens in front of me.
That's pretty good.
And I just remember what it was like the first time that like MacBreak went to video, and after getting over the horror of, oh my God, I'm going to have to shave and put on a clean shirt once a week. How shall I ever survive? It's like the how difficult it was to get anything going. And now it's like, this is all consumer stuff you can just throw right together. So yeah, it's
a transformation. But I still, and I guess it's because I come from old media, right? You used to come over to Tech TV.
Absolutely.
Multi-million-dollar Paul Allen financed, studio. And then I kind of aped it a little bit in the brick house, which was really cool and was rather wonderful to have. I try not to think of the upwards of $20 million that I've sunk into studios over the last 20 years, but that's life. So so it's a sad, in some ways sad, but it's also kind of reinventing to it. One of the things I told everybody about a year ago is let's rethink what we do to do it in a more modern way.
And you're not going to have to compromise on anything that I think people are used to. That's that's the thing about what's happened in the last 10, 15 years in terms of the technology is I think you won't have to compromise because we've got these great, computers are so much more powerful and we've got the great software tools and the rise of podcasting and video has meant that there's so much more video gear available and it's so much more affordable than it used to be. So it's the perfect time to recast and still keep the quality.
Yeah. And that was, how do we do it less expensively with the support of our wonderful club members? And because advertisers are not, going to pay for in back of the day, the advertisers were able to pay for $1 million studios, but not anymore. And so, I'm a little sad because I love coming in and it's a luxury for me. I just sit down and talk and then leave. Now I'll have to push more buttons.
And the one thing I'm going to be sad about not having in studio is having moments like this.
Yeah, I won't be able to break the table anymore. That's the Harlem Shuffle we're all doing. And that's the one where I got up on that table. This is in the brick house and broke it. Burke repaired it, but there it goes. Were you there, Jason?
Yeah.
It looks like that was
That's
you.
me.
That's you that I landed
the panda
on.
hat, yeah. The Harlem Shake.
Harlem Shake. That
He's
was
a
it.
bad egg. That riles everybody up.
And we broke the table.
It only takes one.
True
Burke
story.
fixed it. Burke had to fix it, but we broke it. That you won't see that anymore. That's okay. And John Ashley, if you get lonely, we figured out the attic is big enough that I have my like human real desk over in the corner that's off camera, and you could sit there and TD the show like just right there. So if you get lonely, come over.
Leo, if you get lonely, I can.
I might be more likely. John, can you come TD from here?
As long as there's
Please?
snacks and coffee, that's all.
There's always snacks and coffee. And I'm making my own kombucha now, so everybody drink.
I'm not a kombucha guy. I don't like kombucha.
No, I don't blame you, especially homemade. Let's see. What should we talk about? Actually, the big news is the public beta for iOS 18, macOS
Sequoia.
Sequoia.
Yeah. Sequoia.
Do we say Sequoia?
Sequoia.
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 Koya or Quoya?
Quoia.
From the after the mountain range in Long Island, of course.
Yeah, Sequoia. You got your Sequoia there.
It's next to Secaucus.
iOS 18, iPadOS 18, macOS Sequoia.
Yep.
watchOS 11, and tvOS 18.
Indeed. We are in public beta
Should
season
we?
now.
Yep. Is what I'm asking you, Jason Snell. Should we? We can, but just because you can doesn't mean you should.
So what I would say, having written so many thousand words about this now,
I really want to.
It's in perfectly good shape. I think especially macOS, you could run the beta and it would just be a little different, but you wouldn't really, it's not a big deal. But that's because Apple has exited the era where they put everything in the OS and then some of it was broken, and now they just don't put it in there until it's
works.
Ready to be mostly functional.
So this is reliable enough that you could put it on a production phone?
You might be able to. I mean, phone is harder because the battery drain, right, can be serious because they don't necessarily optimize for battery. The advantage of something like the Mac is it's got a big battery and it's a little easier to plug it in wherever you're working. Not always, but the downside of that is a lot of the features that you're thinking are going to be in there aren't in there. Because
intelligence
they've withheld them, and this year more than ever because Apple Intelligence isn't going to be in there. Yeah. So there will be some intelligence-related features that will probably be in by the end of the summer. Some machine learning features, but most of them won't be there until probably early next year. So yes, it's safe, but don't get too excited because a lot of the features that you may be thinking of aren't in there. But I'm running this Mac that I have in front of me is running Sequoia, and it's got some really nice little features in it, and then there's the stuff that isn't in it anymore. But there's good stuff. There's good stuff in there.
sixcolors.com. You have an article. Dan Morin has an article. You talked about it on the Six Colors podcast. We laid it all out there. Spilled a lot of ink. I won't
yesterday.
make you go through.
Yesterday.
Here's your handwriting being fixed.
Yeah, on iPadOS. There are only 3 features on iPadOS, but the handwriting stuff is one of them. Handwriting, handwritten math notes,
it doesn't
and
fix
tab
it
bar.
much.
It doesn't, but it is kind of weird, right, to see it rewriting my handwriting as it goes, because my handwriting is not very good to begin with, and it seems to emulate that pretty well by fixing it, but still making it kind of unreadable. I find that hilarious. On the Mac, though, like iPhone mirroring is really great. That's the thing.
I really want
You need
that.
the betas of both iOS and macOS in order to use iPhone mirroring, and there are a few things that are not quite hooked up yet, but it works, and it really works well. It's a continuity feature, so it uses Bluetooth, I think, to make the connection and then Wi-Fi to do the data streaming. But your phone can even be 20, 30 feet away, and you click iPhone mirroring. And the way it's going to work is if you get a notification from your phone on your Mac, you can literally just click that notification and it will launch the app in iPhone mirroring in a little window that looks like an iPhone but is on your Mac. They did a really good job. It is extremely useful, and I'm somebody who parks my phone nowhere near my desk.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this because I think, oh man, okay, I got to look at that on my phone, and I got to get up and go over and do two things and then come back to my desk. And I'm not going to have to do that. It's a nice little feature.
It also rotates.
It auto rotates. This is actually a thing that they need to do. Is the problem is you can't manually rotate it, and you need to be able to do that because sometimes an app is much better when it's horizontal, and right now it only rotates when it is forced into horizontal. But it's summer; they could fix that. I hope they do.
You're playing the train game on here.
Yeah, that's Mini Motorways, which is a fun little game, and you can it streams the video. Is streaming at full quality, and it's streaming audio along with it. And the audio, there's no
just
lag.
Sold me.
So it's like your phone is on your Mac. Is basically what it is. You can't enter Jiggle mode, which kind of bugs me because you can't edit the home screen.
Enter Jingle?
You can't enter Jiggle mode.
You can't enter Jingle mode.
Enter Jingle mode. Sequoia. You can't do that. And then there's, they put the tiling feature in, which it's great. It's not going to satisfy people who are like super power user tilers, nor should it. It is for general people. And it's like, how do you want to tile and arrange your windows? You can do it with your keyboard. You can do it with a menu item. You can do it by clicking on the little blue dot. You can do it by dragging and dropping. Like they covered it all. It's a really good
by now,
basic.
Though, everybody who has a Mac has swish or rectangle.
Well, I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. A lot of people just don't bother, and that this might be enough. And for the people who care enough to have one of those third parties, all the third-party apps will do more than this, right? Like this
even
is basic.
Raycast, I can type in center half and so forth.
Yeah, but now any stock Mac, you'll be able to do whatever it is, like globe control right arrow, and the window just goes to the right.
It actually looks like a short version of the rectangle menu. Come to think of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So yeah, I can just sit here with my keyboard and
nice.
and kick the
I wish
thing
you
around.
could see it. It's a
you
thing of beauty.
Can't see it, but
and
just imagine you're just using the keyboard. It's good. It's again, like it should have been there a long time ago.
It's been on Windows for years.
It's good. Yeah, they built a passwords app that's across.
Oh no, this was okay.
Oh, yeah, background replacement.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Now you may say, Jason, you don't look so comfortable in your garage, but he's not in his garage.
I'm sitting in a camp chair under a redwood tree, not a sequoia, a redwood tree in my backyard. But Apple's using all of their very good object detection, subject detection in video in their whole video pipeline. They've been playing with this for a couple of years with a video pipeline. Your cameras on the Mac no longer just go to software. They go through Apple's pipeline and then come out to your software. And so they can now do background replacement, and it's better than the ones that are in other apps. It really is.
Question from Jeff Shapiro watching live on YouTube right now. Does Passwords, is it available, the new Passwords app?
Passwords app is available.
And does it replace Keychain or what exactly?
Yeah, it's basically Keychain Access, I think, is still there, but it's there for like encryption keys and stuff that are advanced that almost no users are ever going to use. They moved the Wi-Fi stuff from there into the Passwords app, and then everything else is coming from the settings password section, and they poured it into the Passwords app. It's a 1.0. I imported my passwords and it got real sluggish. Like it was like 2,000 passwords. I can't cope. And they need to, again, it's beta. Perhaps it will be fixed. Perhaps I just needed to wait, but it was.
That's disappointing. So don't rush into that. Keep your Bitwarden or your 1Password.
That's a flag I've got for the end of the summer is performance on the Passwords app, but it does work. And then my other complaint about
expected, by the way, as you lose battery life on your phone, you also lose performance because they're not yet optimizing for either.
That's exactly it. That's some of the last screws to get tightened down. So I think that they will fix it. I hope that they will fix it. But I will say, because they built it in, presumably Swift UI, it runs on Mac and iPad and iPhone and Vision OS. It runs on all of them.
Nice.
However, I will say, it seems to me that maybe it was not thought through on the Mac and the iPad, because each of the individual items in the password manager, you can click on them, but you can't drag them. And the problem with that is you've got the little smart groups off on the left side. You can't like drag one out and assign it to a group.
And you really want to.
And being able to drag something out to assign it is just a little UI thing, but they got it. Like, that's one of those things where you're like, oh, this is an iPhone app.
This is why they do betas.
But this is why it's a beta.
So they get feedback from people like Jason Snell.
Yeah, I will judge them more harshly in September than I will right now.
Right. So don't judge them. But now you've really kind of tempted me. There seems like there's a lot of, I don't know, quality of life features, especially in Sequoia, like this with Safari, to be able to take embedded video and zoom it full screen, even if it doesn't want to.
Yeah, some websites are not going to like it, but they're basically detecting that the playing video on the page, and they're zooming it out to the full screen and dropping in a dark background and giving you standard macOS video controls, including I have a little bookmarklet in order to kick a video into picture-in-picture, but you don't need that anymore, because if you put it in viewer mode, among the standard controls is picture-in-picture, and you can kick any video from any web page out into picture-in-picture as well if you want to do that. It's it's very smart. We'll see if websites try to fight it and try to break it, but it's a good feature.
Inevitably. Yeah. Why, I don't know, but they will.
Yeah. And then you get your usuals. The tapbacks now cover all emojis and stickers and stuff, and it all just works as a tapback. And you need the latest betas to have that. Old people on the non-beta OSs will get a message that says, Jason reacted to that message with sunglasses, smiling face. And it's like, okay. Less exciting. Yeah. But in this fall, when we're all on the current versions, it'll be great. It'll be a utopia of tapbacks.
Are you tempted, Andy?
To install the beta?
Yeah,
definitely.
Public beta? I think I might.
Yeah, it's the public. Apple's public betas are generally been pretty good. Like Jason said, they've stopped kind of treating it like a beta and started treating it more like a trial balloon. Like, let's have these features stable, and let's see how people react to it, and we'll get data on where we screwed up and where we need to put some more work in. That said, I still wouldn't put it on like my one iPhone. One of the biggest things that maybe Jason might have something to say about this, but one of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot is that battery optimization is not often one of the earliest things to get locked down.
Indeed.
So people might think, oh my God, this next version is going to be a disaster because my battery went down like 20% in like 1 hour. It's like, no, that's just because there's a whole bunch of fine tuning that goes on, and they probably haven't bothered doing that yet until they get something sometimes close to Golden Master. And yeah, losing like an hour and a half or 45 minutes of battery life is very, very bad when you're 30 minutes short of having a full battery and you need to call an Uber.
Yeah, that's the number one reason not to put your iPhone on the beta, is that it may kill your battery. And the other thing is, Andy, in addition to them not optimizing until you get to sort of around final candidate stage, is you have this effect where every time you do a new version, and the betas are coming fast and furious in the summer, there's a certain number of things on the system that need to be re-indexed and recalibrated and rebuilt. Right. And it's just like when you get a new phone and you migrate, you're like, oh, I can't believe it's so hot. And the battery is so bad. This phone is a disaster. It's battery hot gate again, right? And it's like, well, no, every iPhone
is normal.
And every Mac, they do a whole bunch of spotlight indexing. It's one of the reasons that when you've got all your data on device and not in the cloud, they have to reanalyze it and re-index it all the time. So every beta can do that too, if depending on what they change. And so, yeah, battery life is not at its best in the summertime.
So what do you do? If you want to do this, go to beta.apple.com.
I think so.
And then you're going to get, you have to log into your Apple account. You don't have to be a developer now, though, right? That's the point, is this is a public beta.
That's right. You sign up for the beta program, And then basically it's much easier now. Once you sign up with your Apple ID, I believe all you have to do is go to the software update pane in your device, and you will be given a new option of what set of updates to receive, and it's public beta.
Yeah.
And then you go there and press update, and then you're on the public beta chain. It used to be you had to do a lot more weird stuff, but now
Like add a profile. And things,
but now it's a lot easier to do. And then when you want to hop off, you literally just go back there and say, no, I just want to be on the release version. And
except on watchOS, where you cannot hop off the bus. You are stuck on this bus.
Well, you can't go backward off of, you can't revert, but like at the end of the summer,
You'll get it.
if you want to stop getting betas, you can say, just give me the final version, and then it will just stay there.
So everything but the watch, you can revert. You can go back to.
It's a lot harder on iOS and
You don't wanna
iPadOS
do
than
it.
it is on
Okay.
macOS.
So this
macOS is the best because you could even literally install it on an external drive and boot to it.
Right.
Or partition your disk and have, like, you have options on the Mac that you don't have on an iPhone or an iPad.
Maybe I'm just going to do this right now. Should I be crazy? Should I be wild?
Oh, Leo.
Oh. So please enroll your iOS device. Okay. Archive it back
You'll
up.
report the Johnny Knoxville of Apple betas.
Oh, man.
I'm a crazy man. Stand back. You go to General and you go to Software Update. And then, I've always seen this beta updates thing. I didn't realize that's all it is. And now I can choose. You could see the choices that I have. Can you see over my shoulder? Oh, yeah, there you are. The choices I have is the iOS 18 public beta, the developer beta. I don't want the developer beta.
What they do is the developer
same
beta
now.
sort of comes out first, and if it's terrible and breaks things, then they don't release it as a public beta. And so it's safer on the public beta.
Or I could do the iOS 17 public beta, which...
Yeah, 17.5 or whatever they're on now.
Oh, so it is. There is a
there's
legit-
like bug fixes
the
that
next-
come
the
out,
next
but it's really
version.
boring. Don't do it.
Okay.
Live a
so
little.
I've checked that box. And look,
You
that
see?
wasn't long.
Update now, right there.
Update now. All right, let's do it. Johnny Knoxville. All right, don't look at my password. It's secret. By the way,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
yeah.
9876.
What was Kanye's?
That's what I've got in my
0000, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want it to be easy. You know, you don't want to have to remember it. Alex, you are in an interesting position because I know on the one hand you'd love to do the latest and you are easily a cutting edge guy. But on the other hand, you have work to do.
I have to admit, on my Macs, I tend to hang back. And I will probably put one of my Mac Minis on the beta just so I can watch it and I can open it up and play with it. I have to admit, on my iOS devices, I'm super aggressive. So I'm not quite on the developer. I'm not that aggressive. I guess when I say super aggressive, I jump on the betas pretty quickly. My iOS stuff lives in the beta all the time. And when something doesn't work, I go, how can Apple do this? And I go, oh, right, I'm on the beta.
It's hard to remember
I'm
sometimes. Yeah.
But I'm always on the beta, because you can just set it to be like, I just changed it to 18. So it's in the process of doing stuff. I realized, I was like, why didn't I get that? And then I realized I hadn't updated it saying I want to jump to 18. And so my iOS devices are updating right now. But yeah, I'm on iOS. I don't do a lot that I feel like is, that important. I mean, it's important, but I've got also more than one phone. so I if something goes wrong, I usually got another phone that's sitting in my backpack.
Yeah.
This is my one and only iPhone. I'm taking a little bit of a chance on this. I have 2 iPads.
You'll be okay.
I'll be okay.
Yeah, I've got a couple iPads and a couple phones, and so for me,
I do it on my
when
Mac too.
it goes crazy. It's
Yeah.
usually okay.
Is Sequoia a Spanish word?
I think it's
Or is it
probably
Latin?
indigenous. I think it's I think it's from.
It's an indigenous
from-
word, so that's why we
California,
don't
too.
really know how to pronounce it because
Could be.
that's not how the indigenes.
That's my guess.
Sequoia sempervirens. So it depends. Yeah, I mean it would depend. The pronunciation for Spanish QU.
From Sequoia, the name of the Cherokee Indian who invented the Cherokee syllabary. Yeah.
Oh wow, Chief Sequoia.
Yeah. There you go.
Huh. Let me press the English pronunciation.
Although I just found
Huh?
Sequoia.
Sequoia. That is not right.
This is from dictionary.cambridge.org. So it's obviously a British person trying to sound American because they would sound
Probably extra
Sequoia.
U's in there.
Sequoia.
Sequoia. Sequoia.
Sequoia. Yeah. Anyway, I've also just found a webpage that says it wasn't actually named for Sequoia, but regardless, I believe that it's intended to be from a Native American
QU,
like Seattle. And
yeah, but see, this is the problem when you Romanize the
exactly.
use a Roman alphabet to represent sounds that aren't in the language.
Yeah.
Is you get it happened in Chinese too. You get weird pronunciations.
Exactly.
So I don't know how well QU is the weird. Like, is that Quoya or Koya?
Right.
Who knows? Who cares? But at least you've heard it here first. Unless you already did this
Giant Sequoia
on the Six Colors podcast.
I mean, I'm sure we did.
I'm trying to find something you haven't done.
I look, outside of 3 of the people on this show, most of the people I do podcasts with do not live in California and do not understand our strange ways. So
our weird ways.
I have to explain how California
It's
works.
pronounced like quinoa. No, it's not. Not even close. John Ashley, he's sitting right around the corner here. I wish that we could do that. You could really seriously, John. You should come up and.
I mean, you kind of have to bribe me at this point.
Oh, it's that way. It's that way, is it? It's like that.
Making it that way.
Yeah. Where's my bribe, Laporte? Well, you're watching MacBreak Weekly with Mr. Jason Snell in studios. Lovely to have you. We lit up the site sign just.
I appreciate it.
To celebrate
it's
your
good
presence.
To be here.
Andy Anako in the library. How hot is it now in Rhode Island?
94 today.
Yikes! And it's humid. It's not a dry heat.
And it's humid. Actually, I read something yesterday that made me appreciate the humidity, because apparently one of the reasons why hikers keep dying is because not only are they dehydrated, but they don't appreciate that the dry heat means that when they sweat, they lose. It doesn't stick
Precious
to them.
bodily
They lose
fluids.
that. They lose that stuff. So I'm going to take that as a positive, because I'm clinging to anything. Leo, I bought a pair of shorts today. You know,
wow!
I went to Prime Day, and even though I don't want to be the Kevin Smith sort of like middle-aged guy who's wearing shorts and looks like he's just came out of like karate practice in middle school, but I'm tired of wearing long pants outside. I bought a pair of shorts.
Did you get a special Amazon Prime Day deal? Oh yeah, $33.99 for the Bellens Wrangler Authentics Twill Cargo. Oh, only $18.40. I bet you
name Dockers for $19 instead of $25.
Oh,
and I did check.
You know what? I'm tempted.
Sure that wasn't one of them scam things. So I did draw the line at cargo shorts, because also
I thought you were a cargo short kind of guy.
I like the tactical pants, and I'm not proud of this. Okay, it's just that I live at my building is in like a very, very touristy like New England like seashore. I get lots and lots of people, like middle-aged people who are like just having a good weekend, and the people I see my age wearing cargo shorts, that I'm not impressed with the look, and they're better looking people than I am, and I figure that I will look even shabbier than that. So for shorts, for tactical pants, yes, I will take all the pockets you want. For cargo shorts, no, I will take something that looks like. I actually want like golf pants, like Payne Stewart used to wear. You know, high socks, and just to say that yes, I look goofy, but that was a tactical choice. That was not something that I just
my
can't deal
full
with.
intent.
If someone sees me in anything other than tactical shorts, or not tactical shorts, but cargo shorts and a flannel and some version of a flannel shirt or whatever, and barefoot, I've chosen to dress up for you. like you know,
wow.
like that's my natural state, is like I got a flannel shirt, a t-shirt underneath it, and cargo shorts, and that's like, and I'm usually barefoot, and so if I have anything else on, it means that I've decided that I need to, like, whatever I'm doing with you right now is conscious.
Yes,
because I took off my uniform.
They only go
when I do NPR at the studio, it streams to YouTube, and I wasn't joking last time saying that it's quite amusing to see like how I dress when I'm trying to create the impression that yes, he tried to make an impression, he tried to look like he made an effort, and unfortunately, this is the best that he could do, given that he did not want to wear a jacket and tie in this weather.
Exactly.
Well, all right, I'm buying some Dockers shorts right now. That's my for Amazon Prime Day.
It's retail therapy.
Retail therapy, because someday it'll be hot here too. All right. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Oh, I forgot to mention Alex Lindsay is also here, officehours.global. It's great to have
I
you.
ruined everything by jumping into the conversation there.
That never is true.
I got the cadence all up.
You are the MSG of conversation. You make everything taste better. Nobody knows why.
but some
And then
people
you get a headache and sweats later, right? Okay.
You are the umami of any podcast.
He's the umami. You're my umami. Will you be my umami? I like it. iOS did add a new feature that no one thought about. Apparently just seen Chance Miller writing in 9 to 5 Mac, a new recovered album to the Photos app for finding lost or damaged content. That's a nice idea.
Yeah,
Does
I
it
wonder if
work?
that also plays off on the idea that they had those issues of things coming back that people weren't
Does
happy
sound
about.
familiar.
Because now if they find something that they're not sure of its status, they can kick it into the recovered album.
That's probably
instead.
right? It exists alongside the already existing, recently deleted. When you update to iOS 18, iPadOS 18, macOS Sequoia, your device will automatically scan for recoverable photos and videos. Is it possible that they had this feature not quite turned on, but had started it, and that's why it happened? Or
It's possible that this was
in response
we should not put those in the actual library, but put them somewhere special if we don't know their status, so people can judge whether they need to keep it or delete it.
This is that database corruption bug in iOS 17.5 that caused people to surprise, find some photos they had thought they had deleted on their phone. That could be embarrassing.
Oh no, absolutely. There was actually a lawsuit in England, £5 million because a man was cheating on his wife. Bad for him. He thought he deleted evidence of the affair. Unfortunately, he did not realize that although he had deleted it, it had already been copied over to the iMac in the house. The wife found out about it, got a divorce, and he's holding Apple responsible for not making it clear what deleting actually means. He thought it meant that it goes to the land of ghosts and winds. He's off scot-free. It actually meant that no, you have to run around the house and make sure you're deleting things from other things.
It's going to be interesting to see how the court rules on that one. There may be a certain amount of it is in England. They don't have Puritans. They send them all to us, but there might be some sort of moral objection to his suit. This news from Taboola. Remember Taboola? Taboola was the thing that was at the bottom of web pages. You may also like.
Yep.
And it was those awful
it's garbage links.
Garbage links. You could eat worms to lose weight.
I believe the way that they sold it to us, because when I was working a decade ago at IDG, they came in for a presentation. And the way they sold it was, well, we're going to put 4 links at the bottom of the page. And 3 of them or 2 of them are going to be links to your content that we're algorithmically generating. And it's going to drive more traffic to your own site.
Nice. I'll take that.
And the others will be garbage links that we sell, and you get a cut of revenue. And of course, our salespeople said, "Well, great, I get paid if you give us more money." And the editorial people that was why I hated my job. Is so much of my last couple of years there was arguing.
Yeah. Did you win that
user
one or
experience.
lose that one?
I lost some of them. I won some of them. But what I take some strange perverse pride in is within a month after I left, all of that crap was just on the website.
You were the last man standing, the final wall against the web.
guess I was.
Yeah. It's,
it's
hard.
The last honest cop in a deeply corrupt town. That's what
he was
Jason
Serpico. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I mean, I understand revenue. If you're trying to run a business, you want revenue. But the real problem is user experience ultimately trumps everything, because if they aren't happy, they're not coming back.
Yeah, it's a difference between viewing your product as a billboard or not. And I think that a lot of, obviously it works both sides. Editorial people, content people think of the content as everything, and it's not just the content. You do need to make money, but I do think that on the web especially, we saw it. One more ad unit, one more link that goes somewhere funny, one more weird headline, one more, and the whole thought was well, it's more money. Why not? And the answer was, yeah, but you're making our product bad, and people come for the product.
Yeah.
They don't come for your ads.
Yeah.
And if you make it too bad, they'll just stop coming.
This is the nice thing about being independent is,
Yes.
yeah, you got to deal with the revenue issues, but at least you can make those decisions
a little more holistically. And,
Yeah.
and you know, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. I worked with a lot of people in my 15, 20 years in corporate media, especially when I was at a high level and when I was on that fence trying to fight those battles. And some of them got it and some of them didn't. And, you know, a tendency for a lot of media businesses to promote to positions of authority, sales guys. And the sales guys they're great at selling ads and they view the world a certain way. And some of those guys, when they got to the top, and they were almost always guys, I have to say, when they got to the top, they said, you know what? I need to look at the big picture here. And others didn't. So there you go.
Well, the reason I bring this up is ad tech giant Taboola has struck a deal with Apple to power, this is from Axios, to power native advertising within Apple News and Apple stocks. And this is not a new, reformed, better than ever Taboola. This is the same guy. The founder of Taboola told Axios, Adam Singolda, the deal provides new validation for Taboola's business, writes Axios, which has ballooned to over $1.4 billion annual revenue as of last year. Taboola's effort to build trust with Apple across its various teams and stakeholders was, quote, a multi-year process. Mm-hmm. We wore them down, is what Adam is saying.
Yeah, we waited until Jason and all of Jason-type people were gone, and then we struck.
Wore them down. So, as an authorized advertising reseller for Apple News and Apple stocks, Taboola will power native advertising placements within these two apps in every market available.
So native advertising is a keyword, right, Leo? That's the idea of like that's usually what it means is ads that look like content. So it looks like it's a story, but it's actually not a story. It's an ad, and you don't know it. And maybe you don't know it until you click. Maybe you don't even know then. And so the way I read this is that they're going to be supplying units to Apple News that look like news stories, but aren't. Yeah. Great.
That rumor about the star of Punky Brewster, it's true. Yeah.
The rumor about this 80s sitcom star. We won't even
You won't
tell
believe what they look like now.
Oh man, you won't believe it. This is the dark side. They hired a guy. Apple hired a guy to be ahead of ad revenue, and I don't blame him for looking at the world this way because that's his job. My question would be, who is there to stop him and say, you're adding more junk to Apple News, and again, you're making the product worse, and maybe we need to draw a line somewhere. And so when people came to me, I wrote a column like a year ago on Macworld about how it was inevitable that as Netflix and Disney and everybody else added cheaper ad versions of their streaming service, that it was inevitable that Apple would do the same. And everybody was like, no. Apple TV Plus is never going to have ads. It's a premium service. Apple's better than that. And I look at a deal like this and say, don't believe me? It's going to happen because it's another rock that they can turn over to generate some more revenue to put under services. That's it.
Taboola struck last year a 30-year deal with Yahoo. 30 years.
Talk about cockeyed optimism. Yeah,
30
Yahoo will
years.
be here in 30 years.
Yahoo, 30 years from now, that's all you'll see is you won't believe how these podcast stars look today.
Oh my God.
Well, and the funny thing is it only works when everybody does it. Because, like, for instance, if people, there's a certain group of people that are willing to pay to not have any ads. But they'll all go to somewhere, but as soon as they start showing ads, then they're all the same again. Like with Flipboard got to a point where it had so many ads, I was like, okay, I can't do the same. Like I just, I can't use.
Do you do Apple News?
Yeah, I use Apple News. I mean, I use Apple News.
You think it'll get that way at some point where you just see all this content that's not?
Well, if I start clicking on the main thing is that if I start, I'm pretty good at, like, I go to a web page and I see promoted, content across the bottom. And I just go, okay, well, that's all junk, and I just kind of ignore all of that stuff that's down there. CNN.
Yeah, nobody looks at the chum boxes anymore. We know enough not to scroll to the bottom of a page.
Theoretically.
So I imagine that's one of the reasons Taboola is being so aggressive in making new deals.
And there are new ad units. I've noticed a new ad unit on a couple of sites that I go to that when you do a swipe back to go back out of the web view,
you get an ad.
They intercept the swipe back and put up a whole page of, here are other things you could read that is full of that same lousy.
Well, and then you have in Apple News, you get into some, and I don't think this is delivered. I don't know who's delivering to what to where, But you open up some article and man, I can see it's great to see 8 ads of exactly the same thing as I'm scrolling. Like it's just kind of like I've gotten good at scrolling past it, but it's just kind of like, okay, I got.
It's like this. This is why ad blockers is such a complicated thing to talk about. That if you're doing it because you kind of want to, you kind of want to hose the creator out of ad revenue, that's bad. But the technologies that are used to put ads up can often, particularly on a phone, just render the content completely unreadable. There's a little tool, accessibility tool in Android for like if you so that it will clear off like everything but the content on the page that you're looking at, whether it's a web page or whatever, so that your e-reader, your voice can read it out. And I've got that going 24/7 just because it's actually a floating button, and the number of times I have to tap that button to say get rid of everything but the text because I can't read this. I mean, I hate the idea. I'm glad that the ads at least loaded in before I got rid of them all. But it's like you got to meet the reader halfway, like Jason said. There's a point in which you're basically just you need money in order to create your content and host your content, but if you do it in such a way that you make your content an unpleasant experience for the reader, they're either going to circumvent it or they're going to forget all about you.
Well, I think the hard part is that when you're paying for it, though, then you get into this little like I started paying for something that wasn't there, that didn't have that. So like the Amazon, I don't know what it was about the Amazon thing because it's only $3 a month or whatever. But Amazon started throwing ads, into Amazon, and then they just said you can get rid of these ads with $3. And I don't know why that made me so angry.
Yeah.
But it literally, my relationship with Amazon, like in my head, changed overnight. Like I'm just like angry at that company, and I'm just, because I buy a lot of stuff out of Amazon, and I'm now like, I'm frustrated with Amazon. I'm frustrated with like a lot of their different products. I get angry about it because of this one weird little thing, but I just felt like, dudes, like I already send you a bunch of money. Like, I pay for Amazon Prime. It's not like I'm not, and then I buy, I don't know how much stuff on Amazon. And I just felt like, getting nickel and dime for another $3 a month to, as ransomware, essentially. Like it's like, and so I think that this advertising thing is really dangerous for Apple just because it is so not Apple. Like it's just, right. I don't care what they think. It's just, this is a very un-Apple thing to do, because it's, and I think that they're going to have a hard time. And I think that it's going to be harder. Like, I don't even know how to fix the problem of audio and podcast because, I was listening to Noah. I listen to Noah a lot, News Over Audio. And the very first, it said this article was written by this person, still a person, but it said, but it's being narrated by an 11 Labs, voice.
Those voices are good.
And
though.
I was like, oh, it sounded great. No, it actually sounded better at speed than the human.
Yeah.
So because I'm listening at 2x, and so it's actually easier for me to understand the machine than it is.
They should have actually AI voice. Side note, AI voice is designed for listening at 2x. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Like does Lex
just a fast talking voice.
A fast talking voice.
Yeah.
Scorsese.
It should be fast. You just say, I just want the fast talking voice. I just want it to go really fast.
Because I don't like to listen at normal speed. Everybody sounds drunk when you listen at normal speed.
Well, it's so crazy when you slow it back down again.
We're all
just like
yeah.
But I realized that at this point, once that really rolls out, everything can be turned into audio immediately. But the problem is, how do you generate revenue against that? Because if a podcast reads an ad like Twit does, I have a tendency to just listen through it because it's just like while I'm walking, I'm listening to it. If they cut an ad in, that's the last time I'll listen to that podcast.
Ooh,
like
dude,
literally,
this podcast has 4 ads cut into it. I might add, just so you know.
Right?
No,
but you're reading them.
No.
Oh. Sorry, I just said something that I probably shouldn't.
You're not going to have many podcasts to listen to in the future, Alex, because that is the future of podcast advertising. I'm sad to say. It's so depressing.
It's so hard to hear.
Nobody wants to pay for the host-read ads. I agree. It's horrible. It's why we keep flogging the club, because I don't want to do it.
Right.
But we don't have a choice. This show has 0 ads.
But if you pay for the club,
you don't get it.
You don't get it.
You don't get anything. This show, for instance, we have no ads sold on it, which means we're running it at a great deficit. It's costing us thousands of dollars to do this episode. I'll be honest with you, the direct ad insertion we use a company Libsyn owns called AdvertiseCast, doesn't make up the difference. It's pennies on the dollar, but it's better than nothing. Maybe
Right,
it's not. Maybe I should be Jason Snell here. The problem is I sleep with our ad sales director, so it makes it a difficult. If you had to go home with that person,
I never tried that one.
It wouldn't really. It's hard. The argument continues.
Look, the thing is, it is a balance, and it's a hard balance to strike, and it's hard to be that person who has to decide between product quality and revenue, because in the end, you are running a business. And I think it's interesting.
There's no product at all if you don't have enough revenue.
But there's also how the web maybe broke us a little bit, and then how Netflix maybe broke us a little bit, because I totally get Alex's point about Prime Video coming and saying we're going to stick ads in it now. And I know why they did that, right? If you had been able to opt down to a cheaper option with ads, very few people would have taken them up on it,
because Netflix tried that,
and it turns out actually they want the ad inventory. That's what they want. They want you to see the ads.
They make more money on the ads.
They
plus small subscription.
They probably make more money on the ads. Exactly right.
Wow.
So that's a challenge. And then we also have this whole idea. I got this a lot when we were trying to do, you pay for it, but you still get some ads in it. That a lot of people got trained in the digital era to think, no, paying means I never see any ads anymore.
Right.
And I had to explain, it doesn't necessarily mean that, because obviously, a lot of these ad tiers, Netflix and Disney and all that, you're still paying and you're seeing ads. You're just paying less. And magazines back in the day, magazines weren't free and they had ads in them, and we made money from both.
The Dvorak always told me the subscription price you paid for something like Macworld only paid for the printing. It didn't pay for anything else. It's so expensive to make a magazine that the subscription pays maybe to print it, but you still have to pay staff to make the content.
There's this perception that it was free, but no, you lose a lot of money, but you make it up with the advertising, or on the newsstand where you paid a lot more for it, right? And
I think that the hard part is also the quality of the ads. Like that.
Totally.
I know when I had with Macworld as a good example, that the ads are part of the show. Like I'm sitting there reading the thing, but I'm looking at the new releases that aren't editorial are ads. And so I'm looking at new products.
Yeah, and we tried. That's why we did the host read ads, and we tried to pick stuff that our audience would be interested in. That was a virtuous, I thought, a fairly virtuous relationship for the first 19 years, but it just doesn't hold anymore because it's really, it's on the advertisers and their agencies. They just don't want to pay for it.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I just feel like there's a growing number of people that are kind of holding up away from that process. Now, if they can get to they're getting to Apple, so if they can get to everyone, but I think that there's a lot of people that, I pay mostly to get out of ads.
Yeah.
But
that's the thing. That's why we offer a $7 subscription that's got no ads.
And I think that's worth it.
And if everybody who listened paid the $7, it would be far more revenue than the ads. In fact, if 10% of the people who listen, we have 750,000 monthly listeners, so 75,000 subscribers.
That'd be a good deal.
We could expand. We could, we'd reopen the studio. I mean, no, I would never do that again. But we could do a lot more. The problem, of course, for us is that it's less than 2% subscribed. So I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I'm glad I'm an old man, not a young guy trying to figure out how to do podcasting. I look at my son. It's really interesting. So as most of you know, he's Salt Hank. He's an
influencer.
Paris Martineau said she went to the beach with her 20-something friends, and she said, "Yeah, I do this podcast with Leo Laporte," and they didn't know who that was. She said, "Salt Hank's dad." They go, "Oh, Salt Hank's dad." Well, at this point, I'm Paul McCartney's previous band. It's like, so he now has he has Stella Artois. He has, big advertisers. You have to make native content, basically. It is native content with the ad in there. He had a Stella Artois party. He told me, though, there's a problem because Stella Artois tries to do it on the up and up and bills it as adult-only content, because it's drinking age. And as a result, Instagram immediately nobody sees it. They basically don't run it in their rotation. So it's really crazy. So now Instagram has incented alcohol companies not to label their content adult, which is an interesting. Is it unintended consequence? I don't know. Is it? So there's ways to do it, but it's native content now. By the way, he has the same problem we used to have. You used to have to. When companies say, okay, take our computer or whatever for review, I always say yes when you send me a paid return mailer with it. Otherwise, I don't want it, because you realize very quickly. At first, it seems like, oh, look, everybody's going to send me free gear. But it pretty quickly seems like it's a bad idea. He gets every food product ever. He has a whole room in his apartment dedicated to crap that's unsolicited that just gets sent to him.
Amazing.
I said, all those peanuts look good. He said, don't eat those. They were like bacon sour cream peanuts. He said, no,
those are props.
Don't eat those. No, they weren't props. They just were bad. But he gets everything. He says, go through it. Anything you want. You can have. I took home some Clover Stornetta tea towels.
Food influencers is a lot of fun. We used to do a thing on mixed drinks. We used to do a show about mixed drinks, and all that was alcohol. Like that would show up. It'd be boxes and boxes and boxes of barrel like just amazing. Like we were drinking a Manhattan one time, and I asked our host, Alberta, was like, if I bought this in the bar, how much would this cost? Like what I'm drinking right now. And she's like, For that mixed drink, about $80.
Oh my God! Yeah, he did that. He made $1,000 sandwich. He had an LA company provided like the king crab legs and the lobsters or whatever.
Yeah.
He made $1,000 sandwich. It's a different world the influencers live in. It's not like yours or mine. In any event, I don't know how we got into this. I was just saying the ad world has changed. And I know people are mad that, some guy saying, you're not reopening the studio? Well, goodbye. Permanently, says Minion Monkey in our Twitch stream. Goodbye, permanently. Like, okay, fine.
But
when you pay $7 a month, you can say that. Join the club and you can yell at me. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm just but I mean, getting back to like Taboola and Apple advertising. I mean, one of my trigger phrases when I see like either people online or even like people like who are commentators or reviewers saying that they react to something that Google or Samsung or any Microsoft. Oh, Apple would never do that.
Well,
Apple would definitely do that if they. But the fact remains that they are still protective enough of the user experience to say that, okay, we want the money, we love the money, we like money in general. Building a spaceship campus costs dough, and the custom pencils you can only get in the special Apple store are not covering our money influx. But nonetheless, we are not going to make we're not going to make things outwardly terrible, like inserting ads into the Finder, into the operating system, like Microsoft has done. But the thing is, like once Apple News, a service that you pay for, if it should become a mixture of, if I have to do that horrible thing that I hate, which is I'm trying to evaluate which of these is an actual news story and which is something that was designed to was either SEO optimized, AI generated, some sort of a trick to get me to click, even though this is extremely low value content. That is just something I don't even want to see, even if it's extra duty cycles in my brain that I cannot afford to spare, particularly when there's so many things to panic about when I'm reading the actual news.
The problem
I hate the feeling that I'm getting tricked.
You're going to get, but yeah. So remember, actually, it's interesting because Forbes did that for a while, right? Forbes had a lot of native content that contributors paid for, and you had to really become adept at distinguishing the editorial content from Forbes writers and the third party stuff that was just awful garbage, and it bit them in the butt. I noticed Forbes has backed way off. Of course, they have a paywall now all of a sudden, but that does not necessarily. Native content is not good for the brand, I think, in the long run. I really don't. Yeah.
And I think.
Maybe it is on TikTok, but it's not good for the brand on other outlets.
It's not. I don't even know if it's that. I
think it's bad for TikTok.
You don't notice.
Yeah.
Because you can get past it so fast. And like, it's so funny. I realize that when I'm watching TikTok, I can identify an ad in less than a second. Like, it is amazing. Like, it's just like it pops up and I immediately know it's an ad and I just go to the next one. And I'm just, I don't even know what it is in my lower brain that understands that that's an ad, but it is very, very fast. So, so I think that is less of a problem there because you can get past it so quickly and it's not confusing the content or whatever. And it happens every 3 or 4 at this point with TikTok, it's like every 3 or 4 videos is promoted ad, or some kind of promoted content. But even with the Apple News thing, when they you block a content provider, and then they still give you gray squares. So I just feel, like that team, I don't know, just doesn't feel like they're from Apple. Like it doesn't feel like they grew up there, and you feel like something's like kind of clumped onto Apple, and it's kind of this, I think I was excited about Apple News when it first started because it was really nice, and every iteration makes me less excited.
Yeah.
It's not getting better, it's getting worse.
Samsung is watching Apple closely and has decided to copy them in every possible way, not just with the phone, but now their Galaxy Watch is an Ultra. It's called Ultra, the Galaxy Watch Ultra.
Actually an Ultra. Yeah.
It's you wanted an Ultra. You don't have an iPhone. Here, get this one. It's round, but it's an Ultra.
Yeah, and the styling is kind of like the Ultra too, as much as you can when you're starting with a round watch face because it still runs the same OS. There was the Samsung Unpacked event last week. Not only that, but the
earbuds were like AirPods.
Yeah, everything. So now they have like the set of beans that stick entirely inside your ear. Now it has like the drop down, what they call the blades. So now just like with the AirPods, you squeeze, you stroke them, you do that kind of thing. So yeah, that's not a great look. I mean, it's. I'm glad that there is a rugged, there's another ruggedized like adventure. Hey, I'm going to jump off of cliffs and I'm going to be eaten by bears, but I want my body to be found. I want my watch to survive so they can find my body and give my camera to people. Watch now. It's good that there's one of those available for Android users as well as iPhone users. But yeah, you start to wonder why Steve Jobs would get so utterly nonlinear in his reaction to Samsung.
Yeah.
with the way that they would the lawsuits may be a bit much, but I understand how institutionally there is not a whole lot of timidity about saying, you know what, that's a good idea. We like the looks of those. We're just going to copy that.
If you can't beat them, join them. And it is completely possible that Apple has the best design or the best, they did it right. And so it just turns out everybody's going to do it the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I did think, not to get back to like ancient history, but I thought that Apple was being a bit cheeky when they're saying that the idea of a rounded rectangle with a button at the bottom of it is this is an Apple innovation design. It's a signature to the iPhone. And meanwhile I'm like, well, I've got a kitchen scale that predates the iPhone by 3 years. That is a rounded rectangle with a button at the bottom of it.
It's a squircle.
Here's a palm device in my closet that predates the iPhone that is a rounded rectangle with a button. Okay, fine. But
here's something Apple did right. They make it easier to switch from Google Photos to iCloud Photos. But can you go in the other direction?
Yes.
Okay, so this is that Google Apple Meta kind of consortium thing that they announced some months ago is finally bearing fruit, I guess. The data transfer project.
Yeah, this is an organization that's like an independent organization that promotes like cross-platform cross-platform solutions. Apple. I think the Apple delay was because of Google, because it was possible to import iPhoto, the iCloud iPhoto libraries into Google Photos like a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, and now if you go into the Apple support page for moving photos,
right. It's always done that. Yeah.
There's not, but now it's just as easy to do it in the other direction. And the Apple support page just basically has a one-on-one sort of list of here's if you want to move it from one phone to another. Here's going from Android to iPhone. Here's going from iPhone to Android. It's a good thing. It's in the best interest of both.
Why did they do this? Is this preemptory because of regulation, or are they really being nice about it? I mean,
I think that at the end they realize that both sides realize it doesn't cost us anything, and it gives us something that we don't have. Like it's a very, very big deal if someone switches phones and they lost 5 years worth of photos that's unsynced, and that's. Like I said, I go back to the word churlish. If you're making it unnaturally difficult to make that kind of transfer, you're being mean to your users, because if you're whoever you're preventing from switching to Android, you're also preventing an Android person from switching to iPhone. And as you said, this is the sort of thing that it's easy for them to fix, and also very, very easy thing if they don't fix it for regulators to leap upon when they're really on your back about promoting lock-in.
By the way, it does it cloud to cloud. You don't have to download Google Takeout and import enough photos, which I've done, and is a very painful process. The transfer does not delete the photos from Google Photos. You keep those as well. Apple. This is the Apple page. The Apple page says the transfer process might take between several hours and a few days, depending on how many photos and videos you have. And all you have to do it is go to Google's Takeout page. And if you're signed, I guess you have to be signed into your Apple account, or it'll give you that as an option. Go to Google Takeout, follow the instructions to start an export from Google Photos, choose Apple iCloud Photos IC as the destination, then sign up with your Apple ID.
Yeah.
Seems good.
Congratulations to the data transfer initiative. They were like, remember when Sinatra finally got Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis get back together? The data transfer initiative is the Frank Sinatra that got Apple and Google to get together, make up, and give us a tool so we can actually enjoy our photos on both platforms.
All right. Moving right along. Apple has been caught up in this dragnet. We learned
dun 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 dun.
I was working the late shift on, and I discovered that AI had been trained on Apple information. Or
Alex Lindsay was the desk sergeant.
Yes. Creators claim their videos were used without their knowledge. That's what happens when you take drugs. Apple, Nvidia, and Anthropic use thousands.
You're drifting into Dan Aykroyd. Joe Friday there.
Right. YouTube videos to train AI. Okay. This has been a problem with OpenAI, and people have complained. Now, apparently, others are doing it.
It's not necessarily that Apple has been venal and desperate. There's a corpus there's a data set called the pile that's been around for years and years and years. It's an 800 and something gigabyte pile of literal pile of sources of text that are kind of shockingly diverse because it includes things like GitHub, Stack Exchange, Project Gutenberg, Wikipedia, but also open subtitles, also Enron, the Enron emails from Enron, the Enron case that were made public. It was an academic resource that was published like in 2012, I think. I've got it written down here, but I don't know what it is. But basically, it was 800 gig of corpus of training materials that lots and lots and lots of different AI models are trained on. As a matter of fact, it used to include a whole bunch of like actually copyrighted books that was like swiped from a pirate book site until, again, book publishers said, yeah, we don't want our books to be fed into this. You shouldn't have copies of this anyway.
This was OpenAI anyway. Actually wrote a program, which we use now, called Whisper.
Yes.
To transcribe YouTube videos so they could import the text. They didn't want to use Google's built-in subtitles, I guess.
Whisper's much better than Google.
It's very, very good.
Subtitles.
You use it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
According to Wired, our investigation found subtitles from 175,536 YouTube videos siphoned from more than 48,000 channels were used by Anthropic, Nvidia, Apple, and Salesforce. So what it is a data set called YouTube Subtitles. Educational videos from Khan Academy, MIT, Harvard, The Wall Street Journal, NPR, BBC. Also, The Late Show with Colbert. Last Week Tonight with John Oliver and Jimmy Kimmel Live. Got to get that in your AI, especially if you want to tell jokes. Proof News found material from Mr. Beast, Marquez Brownlee, Jack's Septic Eye, and PewDiePie. Wow.
Yeah, it's from 2020, and the YouTube subtitles are only 0.5% of the entire pile. So it's not as though they were necessarily diving against this as a target. I read the article and I compared it against like what I knew about the pile. I don't be reminded what it was, of course, but I'm trying to figure out what is new stuff and what is just, hey, there's this data set that everybody's been using, and it turns out that Apple and a whole bunch of high-profile users are using it too. They should. I mean, people have a right to be angry about it anyway, because once again, you create this content not to train other AI models. You create content for your own good and for the good of your listeners and your users. And even if it is just 0.5% of this data, that's not a good look. I'm still kind of surprised that Apple didn't decide to do something that was closer to what Adobe was doing. Like if they were starting from scratch, if they were able to set their own timeline for putting a large language model together, they could have just licensed everything. Like, is there a source of data that is at least not necessarily creator specific or source specific? It's more like, hey, look, the entire Wikipedia is okay. We'll say that it's there for everybody to use everywhere. And are there other piles of data that they could have gotten that they could have actually licensed? Again, Adobe was in a different situation that they're creating creator tools that they then have to promise their users that, hey, look, if you use our generative AI to create a logo for a product or a product label, we have to be able to guarantee you that you have the right to use that material. So the stakes for Adobe was way, way higher, but I'm sure that there was a lot of discussion inside of Apple of how is it going to bite us in the butt later on if it's found out that we too are just another AI company that used copyrighted original creative material to train an AI to create stuff that is going to put creators out of business. That's not a good look. It might be impossible to avoid, but I'm surprised that Apple didn't get ahead of this a little bit.
They should just put creators in that giant press that they use to create the iPad Pro, and then it's all over.
Andy, I think the answer is because they didn't have time, because they were behind and they were desperate.
Yeah,
I think they
may not even have known, right?
They may not. Well, no, I mean,
this was
they
all
said
in a
on
giant
stage.
pile of.
They said on stage at their thing with iJustine after the announcement that they were using the open web, and this is a common thing that these companies do: is they say, "Well, it's the open web."
Microsoft's head of AI, Suman, even said that means open, free for all.
And I get it to a point, because this is the argument with something like Google search, that we're not really using your content as much as using our knowledge of what content you have to generate a database that points to your content. But I think the AI training people took that and ran with it. And I'm really sensitive to the idea that without any consent, they took the content of the internet and used it for their own purposes to build their own tools to get rich. Essentially, it's a business to make profits. And that's what troubles me about this whole story, is that you get executives coming out and saying, well, if it's on the internet, essentially you're giving it away. And that happened in the last couple of weeks. If it's on the internet, you're giving it away. And that's not true. If it's on the internet, it is under copyright unless explicitly licensed under something else. And I am deeply troubled when you start building AI tools to replace creators or to generate profits for yourself, but not point at the source material. That's where it gets really disturbing, because
but that is what Google does with a search, right?
The difference is the quid pro quo, right? This is why I never really
back to the original.
I never really loved the idea like the Google book search idea, which was we have the copyrights on books, so you can't index them. I always thought that was unfortunate, because it wasn't trying to replace the book. It was trying to let people find what was in the book so they could go get the book. But a line is crossed when you start building out AI summaries or building out knowledge bases that are based on the knowledge on the internet that's copyrighted, and there's no link and there's no quid pro quo. They're just taking it. And likewise for artwork on the internet and videos on the internet, like all of those things are copyrighted. And there's a whole debate about like robots.txt, and which is, first off, Apple didn't say they were crawling for an AI training purpose until after the fact. So they did it after the horse was out of the barn. Yeah. And second, existence or not of robots.txt does not change my copyright on my work. It doesn't change it one bit.
Yeah, the arrogance of saying, it sounds naive, but at least be a little bit aware that you're doing something that's kind of sneaky or at the very least gray, is when you defiantly say that, oh no, well, you put it on the web and so therefore you're giving away to everybody for free. You have no rights to this. You have no copyright to it. I can license it. I can commercialize this. I can turn this into a brand new product if I want to, because you gave it away for free. It's too bad that you're not as smart as us, as Microsoft, who can actually monetize things better than you can. Oh, well, good luck working at Dairy Queen from now on. That's the sort of thing that makes me not want to see the other side of this argument. We're starting to look at ways of there's always been this discussion about how we're running out of content to train AIs with. And this is one of the reasons why YouTube and other streaming services are kind of like this other hill that we can dig apart to find more stuff to train an AI with in terms of information and knowledge and language. However, we're also past the early point of AI where we're discovering how inefficient our model training is. Google published a paper 2 weeks ago explaining a new method they're coming up with for training AIs that basically they've trained an AI to take a look at incoming data and reject the data that's not actually very, very valuable. Okay, so instead of needing tons and tons, you need maybe a quarter as much, actually a tenth as much, according to this paper, because it's doing a good job of saying actually high value content that is being used to train for a long period of time is better than the entire fire hose from everything. Again, this pile corpus goes back to 2004. That's how deeply it goes. Imagine if I really wish there had been a way for Apple to simply say, we're going to figure out a way to do this so that we can have our hands not entirely clean, but at least have a single amount of pride and dignity about the way we do this. We're not just going to be another thief that is breaking into this abandoned house and ripping out the copper pipes.
This was actually a story Wired republished from proofnews.org. I want to give Proof News credit. They quote Dave Wiskus, who's the CEO of Nebula. That's the consortium Rene Ritchie's part of, right? Who else uses
before he went to YouTube?
Yeah.
Before he went to YouTube. It's theft, says Dave Wiskus. It's disrespectful to use creators' works without their consent, especially since studios may use generative AI to replace as many of the artists along the way as they can. Will this be used to exploit and harm artists? Yes, absolutely, Wiskus said. The folks who made this data set, they call it the pile, did it because they wanted to lower the barriers to AI. They wanted to make this data available to nonprofits, and as people besides big tech. And in fact, it's used by anybody with the power to access it, including academics and other developers outside of big tech. The problem is big tech also used it, I guess. So it includes, by the way, not just stuff from YouTube, but the European Parliament, English Wikipedia, even things like Enron Corporation's employee emails that was kind of on the public internet as released as part of a federal investigation into the firm. In other words, everything they could get, they put in there. I have mixed feelings because if you don't train AI on everything you possibly can, it's not going to be as good. It's going to be kind of dopey. True. And as Sam Altman said, if you only train AI on public domain materials, you're going to have a very limited AI.
Well, and I think that there's a lot more of trying to try this in the court of public opinion because it's unclear whether the United States
you're right,
will side. And once this is decided legally, we're at 1/10 the amount of money spent because there's a lot of people holding back or going slower than they could go because they're afraid of the copyright issue. And once that's been sorted out, if it turns out that the copyright issue is a big deal, then they're saved their money. If it turns out that copyright is going to not be something that is supported by the courts, we haven't seen anything yet. This is, the amount of money that'll flow into the system. So the uncertainty of the copyright is actually, has held back what could possibly happen. And I think that I do think we need to figure out, again, we have been mechanizing the workforce for a long time. So this is a white collar problem instead of a blue collar problem. But I think that when we talk, I think a lot of times it's a little hyperbolic for the people to think they're going to get replaced in Hollywood anytime soon, just because the AI stuff, people talk about that, but when you see what's actually coming out, even now, and it's going to get better, it's hard for humans to write good TV shows, let alone, a machine. It's going to take longer than I think people think. But I think that the real challenge is the retail solution, which is that people aren't searching or they're not looking. I know that my search habits have changed. 90% of the searching that I used to do, I just use ChatGPT for. And I know that I'm totally like that. I don't go to Google as I go to Google after I've done searches on ChatGPT to check on ChatGPT. Is this really the case? But to think about things, I'm using AI to do that, and I think that definitely affects all of those and you know, I don't know how. I mean, the problem is that it's so much more efficient that it's hard not to do that. I build pipelines, and I'm sitting there talking to it about Resolve, and it just tells me, it doesn't tell me kind of where to go in Resolve. It tells me exactly what to do. Like, this is the step by step, making it up. I don't have to watch someone's video that spends 4 minutes trying to set me up for what it's going to tell me. You know, like that's the problem also, is that the content isn't as efficient. I
don't debate the utility of AI. I think it's amazing. I use Whisper. It's amazing. I think we risk, if we narrow our field a little bit, we risk buying into what some of the people like Sam Altman are trying to sell us. He who has got a very successful company that's worth billions of dollars.
He's doing okay.
Right.
And I see this a lot of times talking to people about Apple, where like, if there's something Apple doesn't do, they say, oh, it's too hard. And it's like, but if you talk about other things, they're like, well, Apple's the greatest company in the world and they can do anything they want, but that's too hard. That's too hard. And I know that there are very difficult problems with AI, and the pace of AI innovation might slow if there are limitations, but I would bet that there are ways to build systems like this that properly cite their sources. If they're an internet search engine like Google, that they attempt to actually drive traffic back to the sources. Or you could create a licensing regime where money goes in a pool, and based on an analysis of how it's used, people who opt into the licensing regime get paid. Or there's a new law that suggests that for stuff like this, copyright doesn't apply, but there's some sort of compensation that applies like that. There are harder things to do that might be more expensive that could be done, but the AI companies don't want to do them, or it's too hard, and it's a hard enough problem already. Yeah. So why do we want it to make it harder? And I get it when you're on the frontier, but at the same time, I don't think I buy their argument that it can't be done, and people can't be treated fairly by this.
Yeah. I think the challenge is what, you know, the tragedy of the commons, which is that at this point, the cat's out of the bag. And it's going to be very hard for one country to decide. It's almost something that has to be done globally, and that includes China and Russia, you know, and that's going to be very difficult. Like, if you slow it down, you're just falling behind, you know. And I think that's the, I think that's the hard part, is that, and again, I think that's part of why the AI companies made it more consumer based and made it more open quickly, is because they got it so embedded into what people are doing. It's hard to get the users to let go now, you know. And I think, and I do think that there is, you know, things become a lot more efficient. Like, one thing that I've gone away from is buying pretty much any, like, I think about this, in, you know, a lot of food processing is very efficient, and you can make meals very quickly, but it's really not very good for you. You know, like, I've been thinking about that parallel to ChatGPT while I use it, just because, like, I buy almost nothing in a box at this point. Like, we have these little grape leaves, and I was like, I want to learn how to make grape leaves. And my daughter was like, this is the last normal thing we have in the house. You know, like this is the last vestige, are these grape leaves. You know, and because everything else I just make from scratch, and I do it, and it takes a little bit more time, and it's not as efficient as pulling out a box. But that food is poison, but that's high. But what we're eating is, what we're potentially about to start eating a lot of, is highly processed information. So I'm wrestling with it as I use it, but I do see both sides of that, and I'm wrestling with it just by human beings, what's going to happen to them, but also, you know, what happens to the creators and so on and so forth. I don't have the answer yet, but I think it's going to be a complex problem. You know, it's not. This isn't going to happen. There's no simple answer.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And I think Jason had the point that I really, really like, which is that just because something is hard doesn't mean that it is not the right thing to do. Doesn't mean it's not attainable. And doesn't necessarily mean that you have to expect a company like Apple to do things the hard way, and the one way that will give you slower results and in many ways better results. But the thing is, you have to choose as a company and as a product manager, where's the line you don't want to cross? What's going to be worthwhile for us? Do we want to be able to stand up at a media event and say that, yeah, you know what, we're going kind of slow. We don't have all the features that Microsoft has in Windows, or that Google has on their apps. However, we do our very, very best to make sure that either everything that we're training from is either public domain or we have licensed it appropriately. Because at some point you get to the OpenAI. they've actually struck a licensing deal with the New York Times and with the Wall Street Journal. It's not because they have seen God and they're trying to do the right thing. It's because these are huge, huge, huge media organizations that can put the hurt on them and sue them and give them a lot of trouble and prevent them from being able to release things because of, as Alex said, the lack of clarity on what copyright allows a company to do in training stuff. When it comes to people like Jason and myself and the shows that we do here and YouTube creators and people who've just been blogging for the love of it or for probably not enough money for the past 10 years, it's not okay to steal from them because they don't have the ability to fight back, because it's a crime that you're definitely going to get away with and you're not going to be paying a large penalty for. And this is, again, this is not an arrow directed at Apple's heart or Microsoft or anybody, but there's a point at which you're going to have to step up, even if it's just to yourself, shaving yourself in the mirror or doing your hair or whatever, and say, this is not the way that a young, more idealistic me would have done this. We would have found a way to make things more fair, to basically get our hands as clean as we can possibly get, even if we have to do some kind of corporate things in order to make things happen, in order to succeed as a company. I just don't think that all it means to me is that Apple can't present themselves as the shining beacon on the hill that they often like to present themselves as, if they're not willing to do the work and make the sacrifices and go slow and not be the number one company and not advance as quickly as analysts want you to advance. If you do want to present yourself as the company that's different from all the other companies, ethically, responsibly, being a good corporate citizen, a good society citizen, a good planetary citizen, you have to do that work. And sometimes Apple disappoints me because they don't do that work. They have to be what they are, which is a $2 trillion company.
I mean, just
inevitable.
To underline a point of yours, I mentioned the expediency earlier, this idea that they were behind and they had to catch up and they felt like they needed to cut corners in order to get something out there. I think they're licensing all that other content shows you that internally they know that there are issues with just scraping everything. But in the end, they felt like it was an existential threat to be behind on AI.
There's
so
a lot
here
of
we are.
Move fast and break things in AI, and Apple, which hasn't traditionally followed that pattern, had to here.
I think the good news for Apple is if it's ruled that all the way these things are trained is illegal, it doesn't put them. Everybody
it's a
goes
level
down.
Playing field.
Everybody gets knocked down a notch.
A sinking tide lowers all boats.
Yeah,
I believe.
I think
is the adage.
Technically,
yes,
as long as you have a boat.
Apple, for a long time, required that if you were a browser on iOS, you had to use WebKit. They stopped that. I didn't know this, but they stopped saying that in January. Didn't matter to 3 California residents who sued Apple over App Store practices, including requiring the use of WebKit. They wanted a class action suit against Apple. They just lost. The California federal court has ruled against the proposed class action suit. Maybe it's moot since Apple is allowing WebKit.
I think it's in the EU only.
Yeah.
I think that's an EU
But this was a lawsuit in California, though.
Because they aren't letting them.
Oh.
I think that's how that works.
Oh. Yeah. So in January, in the EU only.
For the record, nobody's done it in the EU yet.
Well, because it's not easy.
Because it's so onerous. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The web browser kit.
In fact, Firefox said that. They said, well, basically all Apple's allowing us to do is develop twice as many browsers.
And just limit it to the EU. Oh, boy.
Yeah. It's not a financially sound proposal. The suit also claimed, and I'm a little bit kind of also behind this, that Apple acted to block the use of progressive web apps so that you can't replace native App Store apps with a web page. I don't know if they blocked it, but they sure didn't make it easy. They didn't throw all their weight behind PWAs.
For sure.
In February, Apple did say PWAs wouldn't be allowed in the EU. Then it changed its mind a month later because I think Marguerite Vestager looked at them with, scary eyes.
This guy.
She's got the real. She could do that too, boy. Judge Richard Seaborg, the U.S. District Court in San Francisco, says for this specific case, they don't have legal standing. Okay. So I guess he threw it out only because you don't have standing. He said that Apple's argument for dismissal of the case casts doubt on whether the plaintiffs are the correct class of harmed individuals to bring this case. Plaintiffs can amend, however. They have 30 days to do so. Neither they nor Apple have commented. So the battle, I won't use the word rages on. It kind of trickles on. We need it. You're the writer.
Rolls on. It just rolls on.
It rolls.
The story rolls on.
It's rolling.
Stay tuned to the MacBreak Weekly for updates.
Updates.
My friends.
For updates.
The show that never ends.
Apple did settle the EU case by opening iPhone payment systems to rivals. See, there is. If you didn't believe me, there is Margaret Vestager going, huh?
You will allow it?
You did it. She's the EC's executive vice president, but formerly director of competition. And she has been really a pit bull in requiring companies to be more competitive.
Pretty measured settlement in the sense that it's not saying that Apple should never have invented Apple Pay, but it's saying now that Apple has invented Apple Pay and has NFC readers on its devices, it needs to allow third parties to find a way to become the default on the NFC reader and have access to it from their apps and all of these things without going through Wallet. And it's not unreasonable. I think when I find it dangerous is when Apple tries to invent something and then after the fact they say, they should have had this be open all along. But early days when you're trying to build something, it's not necessarily even going to happen if it has to be an open API. They're trying to build a feature and get it to function. But it's been around for so long now that Apple agreed that it will open this up so that third parties will have access to it.
So you would say this is a happy resolution for both sides, that Apple got a monopoly for as long as that's kind of the patent system, isn't it? You get a monopoly for a limited period of time so you can recoup the investment, and then you have to open it to the rest of the world.
Yeah, but this is one of the areas of antitrust where Apple, I think, has a really hard time making a defense when they say that anytime someone uses any NFC to buy anything through our phone, we get a cut because you have to use our system. That's neon, flashing neon saying sue me, sue me, sue me, sue me, and it's hard for them to win. And that's probably where they're going to be. It's also where the DOJ is hitting them.
Is Apple suitably chastened by this, so that going forward they will consider these kinds of things, or are they going to fight it to the death every single time?
I would say fight it to the death.
Yeah. Fight it to the death.
Okay,
they're definitely going to drag their feet along,
or to the pain.
This is just a year.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the question is, are they going to decide to do things worldwide, or are they going to decide to have an EU Apple and a non-EU Apple? Because the EU has demonstrated that they have the ability to pass laws that make sense and also enforce the law.
India now
Apple
is
would not be negotiating
the act. Yeah. The Competition Commission of India, CCI, has been investigating Apple since 2021 for possibly abusing its dominant position in the apps market. Apple has denied wrongdoing, says, we're a small player in India. Android's dominant there, but that is not what the CCI says. Apple's App Store is an unavoidable trading partner for app developers, and resultantly, app developers have no choice but to adhere to Apple's unfair terms, including the mandatory use of Apple's proprietary billing and paying system.
Yeah. Again, the billing and payment system.
Yeah.
Yep. So, same thing.
They're going to fighting this. Every single district they have to fight it in.
I'm starting to feel a little bit for them because that's tough. You've got 200 countries, 200 plus countries.
Yeah.
Not to mention every state in the union. That's a lot of battles.
Well,
there probably is no one thing you could do as a company to make everybody happy.
Right.
No, I think Apple will, though. I mean, India is still a pretty small market for Apple, and Apple's a pretty small player in India. It's 6% of the market. so it's not like Android
Europe's
is
not the biggest
majority
market either.
No, it's not. And I think that, Apple will see how long it takes for all these other things. I don't think there's any reason. There's just too much revenue for them to change voluntarily. So they're going to keep on. And I don't think that they think they're wrong. So I think that if they, so I think that they're going to keep on, seeing how long this drags out, and not necessarily make it a clean, thing. And again, they're going to, in the United States, the chances of anything happening significantly are not super high in the near term. and will be 0, if anything changes in November, and so that'll be, so it's like, so I think they're probably, what's interesting is culturally, I'm sure Apple wants one side to win in November. The business side of Apple probably wants the other side to win, so it's a really complicated, look at the, in the election coming up, because all of this will just disappear if the Biden administration doesn't continue in the fall.
Yeah. Almost all the trouble is from the Department of Justice. And if we have an administration that basically decides the Department of Justice exists solely to execute the whims and policies of the executive branch of the president, then that could be really,
it's not all that clear. Many of my former friends in Silicon Valley are celebrating the choice of J.D. Vance as vice president, because he loves Lena Khan. He has said how great the FTC is, and that the FTC should go after big tech so that little tech can thrive. And he, as a former venture capitalist, he was at Mithril.
Yeah, Andreessen Horowitz loves him.
Ben Horowitz thinks he's great.
Yeah, I will just say, J.D. Vance has said those things. J.D. Vance says a lot of
many things.
Including calling Trump the American Hitler, but he changed his mind. He changed his mind.
And also remember, the vice president probably does not have a lot of impact,
policy,
on the administration.
Yeah. I'm just saying politicians say lots of things. And J.D. Vance, he's got a recent track record for saying lots of things. But it is an interesting dynamic, right? The let's not regulate anything versus this nuanced thing, which is big tech. Like, it gives lots of politicians exactly what they want, which is beating down on big tech, which is perceived as being bad. Republicans feel that way too, right? They feel like they're moderating things and they're influencing people and they've got too much power. But this is like a nuanced take where it's sort of like, let the startups flourish, and then I guess reach the point where they can still get bought by big tech, right? Like there's a question mark in the middle there before step 3 profit, but it's different. It's a different take on it.
I wouldn't expect a lot of consistency in the overall.
Probably
plan.
Not. Probably not.
It's politics and whatever works for the moment.
Andy's right. I think that there's a lot of that going on in Silicon Valley right now, which is Apple's business side realizes that they would benefit probably tremendously from a second Trump administration, but I'm sure that on the social side that Apple as a whole, it would not like that to happen. But you saw it when Tim Cook played ball with Donald Trump the last time. Right. So like that's one of the great, I'm glad I'm not in Tim Cook's job. It pays really well, but to be able to try to square the difference there.
Do you think that's the hardest thing he has to do is politics, is deal with nation states?
Yes, because they're so powerful that they are almost like a nation state at the table, at the mercy of all the other nation states. And so, between China and volatile U.S. administrations and European regulations, that's a big job. Yeah. That's a big job.
Yeah. I wonder how the Vision Pro's doing in China. It's now on sale in China.
Who could tell?
So, Alex, you're going to do a Vision Pro stream of the Sunday show, Twit.
Yep.
So the last Sunday show in the studio will be August 4th. We're shutting the studio after the show on the 7th. So go ahead.
Trade some emails about doing it on the 28th.
We can either do the 28th or the 4th. So it's up to you. And you said maybe you want to practice on the 28th.
Well, I think at the 28th, we might. It depends on when you have people in the studio. So if you have people in the studio, both of those
I'll talk to Benito. I think we're going to try. We're trying to get Jason to come up. We're trying to get you to come. Well, you'll be here anyway, so you should do the show. Right. You should do Twit. I think we can make it live in studio.
I can do the 4th. Yeah.
Can you do the 4th?
Yeah.
So, you know what? Let's talk to our producer, Benito Gonzalez, and find out what he has.
What I think I might do is that what would be nice on the 28th is for me to do some test streaming to make sure that I understand like where the camera has to be and if there's any changes we have to make to get everybody in the frame and all that stuff.
So let's make August 4th then a Vision Pro version. Get your dust off your Vision Pros, kids.
Try to remember what drawer you put it in May.
No, that's mean. That's just mean.
That's mean.
That's mean.
And that's jealousy coming out.
Yeah, we all wish we had one to keep in a drawer ourselves. Apple seeks killer apps, says the Financial Times, for its $3,500 Vision Pro headset. Wonder if they had a whole team of journalists assigned to this story. Or
is this from last year?
Like what? Okay. Yeah. Well, there isn't. Oh, I know why. Because it goes on sale in Europe. That's why. So
yeah,
now the
it just
Financial
went on
Times
sale there.
An English newspaper has something to say.
I think
about
of all of the arguments, I hear a lot of arguments about, Apple, doesn't treat its developers very well, and thinks that developers are making their livings based on the greatness of Apple and Apple's products, and that which is an attitude that Apple definitely has. I am sympathetic to the idea that the Vision Pro is a product that needs, in addition to content, which Apple should be more active in providing, it needs killer apps. It needs software beyond, because I think the killer app is probably not necessarily a 3D theater stream or a 3D sports stream. Maybe it is an immersive sports thing, but app development, like, there are so few Vision Pros out there. And even if you believe Apple, that they're committed to the long term and that this is a platform that's building, what is the incentive for developers to be experimenting with it and finding that killer app and finding that thing that everybody goes, oh my God, have you seen this? Yeah. This is going to catch fire. And I think that Apple took it for granted that the developers would be there. And I think that there are lots of things they could do, like make developer kits available. Actually, literally go to key developers and say, we will let you have a Vision Pro on loan for a year to experiment, or you could pay them, or you could commission something like they do with some Apple Arcade stuff. That, to me, is one of those rocks that they need to not leave unturned in terms of seeking a killer app. Because if developers look at the platform and say, like, I know developers who've got apps on this platform from basically day one, and they say, we have maybe dozens of users, like, nobody is using third-party apps. Even if there are Vision Pro users, I wonder how many of them are not doing anything beyond the video stuff at this point. And so you got to provide an incentive, because no developer, one of my friends said, based on user base, in a year, I should spend half a day on Vision Pro, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So Apple needs to figure out how to make an incentive for them to find the killer app.
Yeah, I think that if they're wise, they're spending this year saying, whoever we sold it, we sold it. It's clear from a lot of the data that IDC came up with just last week that the people who wanted a Vision Pro bought one, and then that was pretty much it. They haven't, the presence of them out there has not caused other people to get on the bandwagon. I feel as though Apple's going to be spending 2024 setting things up for the less expensive model coming up next year. That if they can say, look, all the developers that we're going to need, they have one. We're going to, as Jason say, that we're going to encourage developers to get their hands on one just to figure out what they could do with it. Because at some point, be it next year or be it 2026, there is going to be an affordable version of this that's going to be as attractive as a MetaQuest, in that it's going to be affordable enough that even if you can sort of justify that, hey, look, even just as a mobile monitor and as a way of watching really cool videos and playing some games, I can justify $500, $600, $700 on a MetaQuest. I will pay the Apple tax and spend $1,000, $1,200 to do that. They have to make sure that things are ready for that moment, because I don't think anybody was predicting that this was going to be an immense success and transform the entire world into 2024 with its first release. This is always going to be I don't know why they're making it. They're going to make a good version of it, but I don't know. Maybe I'll learn something about the market I didn't know before. Yeah. Turns out that no, there isn't a big groundswell of support for $3,500 virtual reality, whatever. But again, in 2 years' time, they're going to have better hardware, and they have to make sure that if this thing is going to be a permanent thing and not just a transition towards wearable eyeglasses, they're going to have to make sure that they've got 5 years worth of content worth coming. And they have to be able to make more than just games and interactive video experiences. They have to create the killer app as good as where it is anyway.
I forgot. We're in the Vision Pro segment.
I guess we are. We stumbled into it.
We fell into it.
Let's do it. Do you have it?
1 minute.
You still don't have it?
I've been working on it the past. I surprised him too.
We added it in post last week. But you just
it's been a busy
it's been a busy week. Yeah, I understand. Well, anyway, what do you think it will be? The killer? Maybe it won't be an app. Maybe it'll be killer content.
I think both. I think it's worth investigating whether there's killer apps there, because I think there probably would be. But my gut feeling, having used it for all these months, is the content is so compelling. so compelling, and it's so frustrating that they've shot stuff that they've shown in sizzle reels and nowhere else. The idea of doing live or even recorded immersive concerts, immersive sports, there's something there that's really powerful, and I know that Alex
has a Vision Pro thinks that that already is the killer app, is watching video.
I think it is, at least so far.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things that you can see. So, I mean, there are, and it just depends on where Apple goes with it. And I feel like the immersive, once we get to a higher frame rate and a better quality, so part of it is that, getting to these 8K per eye, 90 frames a second, it's a different kind of experience. It's not the same as watching like, oh, it's 3D, or it's a little like, we're going to do some 3D streaming, but we know that somewhere in the future, as that Blackmagic camera eventually comes out, as other one, no one's had a camera that did 90 frames a second, 8K per eye, that wasn't an art project before. So that's the big thing. If it comes out and can actually perform at that level, no one's ever seen anybody who readily has that camera, and that's going to change a lot of the kind of content and the amount of content that's available out there.
It would be amazing if you could, you would be in the movie, and it would be even more amazing if games could be that good. I mean, you're in the game.
It can be, but the main thing is that the just watching it, just sitting there and watching a concert. The big thing is you don't need a bunch of cameras. Right. You need one camera. Like, this is where I'm sitting.
Because you have one pair of eyes and one pair of ears. That's all you need.
And so the thing is the ability to do, and at first, right now when we see concert videos, half the time you're watching, we put the cameras where we could put them because there was an audience there, right? And this is, we're going to put the camera exactly where we want it. It's going to be a singular experience, and people are going to, and that camera is the perfect place to watch that concert. And at 4K per eye, it's not enough. At 8K per eye at a higher frame rate, it starts to become, and at 120, what eventually will probably become 120 per eye, with 10K per eye or 12K per eye or whatever, you will feel like you're really there, and it'll be a much different experience. The other side of that is all the interactivity. So again, I keep on pointing to not what it is now, but if you look at the app that points towards it as much as any other is Jigspace. The problem is their business model, I think, doesn't really work. It's anytime they tell you to contact us when you want to know how much it costs, you're in trouble.
It's expensive. It's going to be expensive.
And so
you said, Jason, you like to write in it. That's like it's
I do. Somebody in the Discord said that focus is another feature of it. It is. I have written numerous articles putting in the AirPods, dialing up a Joshua Tree, I think, and using Runestone, which is a Vision Pro text editor,
peaceful.
And just to block out the world and not have anything but my focus on my writing, and it can work for that. It really can.
Interesting. So the Financial Times quotes Anthony Geffen, who is won the first ever BAFTA award for virtual reality storytelling. I don't know if he's a creative director and chief executive of something called Atlantic Productions. I don't know if he's related to Geffen.
Gotta be, right?
Well, but maybe nephew? Adopted. I don't know, nephew or something. I've been through all the false dawns of VR, he said. I think in the next 2 or 3 years, we will genuinely have devices that will be mass market. The Vision Pro has arrived at a very important time. It would be really, he's done Everest. He's done some really interesting stuff. I mean, imagine climbing Everest in Vision Pro, and actually having that experience. Yeah. It'd be kind of amazing.
But it's hard. Remember that there's a reason why Cinerama never really took off like when it needed to in the 60s. There's a reason why all these other immense immersive sort of experiences for the movies, when the movie industry tried to respond to the incoming threat of television, they said, well, what if we give them a more present experience? What if they give them better sound? What if we give them this screen that goes all the way around? And that wasn't the feature that people were looking for. It was great. It was a wonderful experience and people enjoyed it, but it wasn't the sort of thing that got people to not want to watch television anymore. And it's possible, I'm not saying probable, but it's possible that as wonderful as the immersive experiences can be, the idea of strapping something to your face and experiencing something that way is not going to be enjoyed more than experiencing it on a nice 60-inch TV that they spent half the amount of money for. It's hard to get around the idea that everybody in this experience has to have a compatible headset and they have to be all wearing it at the same time. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying that I don't know how they get around that. It's great for individual experiences. It's great for I want to have a big monitor with me no matter where I go, whether I'm in the bedroom, whether I'm in the den, whether I'm on an airline seat. Virtual displays, virtual workspaces are amazing, but that's still conventional apps operating inside of windows, inside of displays. I'm still baffled as to what the right answer is, and I'm still more locked into the idea of something cheap that's good enough, that's very, very accessible, over something that is next generation, that gets the next level of immersion, the next level of participation. Because barring something that makes that as compelling as sitting on a sofa with 3 friends watching something on TV, or with game controls in your hands, watching the same screen and playing the same game, I'm not sure that work is really going to pay off.
I just don't know. I mean, I get that. There's a lot of us, though, that don't necessarily watch all the things with everybody else. I mean, I watch a lot of things with my family, and that's probably the primary way I watch it. But I have to admit, the Vision Pro is so good that if I'm not watching with my family, I'm oftentimes putting the Vision Pro on. If I'm going to watch a movie and I'm not going to watch it with my family, I'm going to watch it on the Vision Pro because it's so much better experience. And so the thing is that it's so, I don't necessarily, I think that there is a place that a lot of people are in where they're not necessarily trying to do it with a bunch of other people. And I think that there's also, I've talked to a lot of people with the Vision Pro that when even just what I would call crude examples that have come out so far of the immersive video, they're just kind of like, oh, well, if there was a lot of things like that, I'd be using the Vision Pro a lot. And I also think that, again, the exciting thing about what Apple's done is, most of the other products, by trying to keep the price down, are kind of half-baked. You don't see what's possible. Like if you don't see 8K per eye, you're watching it half-baked. Like it's half-baked, and half-baked bread is still dough. And so the thing is that until you see it, no one's going to say, oh, this is going to be the future. And maybe Apple will, swing and miss. But I think that is I think that Apple very much, needs to prove this far in. They can pull back, but proving and seeing it, I don't think we've seen anything yet, by the way. I mean, I think that the headset was way overbuilt for where everything is right now, but probably a little underbuilt for where it'll be when the next version comes out in, let's say, 2026. So I think there's a lot still. I think there's probably still a lot of dry powder that Apple's doing. And I think that we said they can't, they're not going to be able to sell more than 400,000 because there won't be enough supply. Now we're saying, they're not going to sell more than 500,000. This is all, all ruined, And so I don't think Apple had an expectation of selling more than 500,000 this year. I don't think that was in the cards. And so I think that, I think that we're 10 years into a 20-year plan, and we're not going to know whether they got it right for another 5. I think that's probably the most likely.
All right, let's play the closing theme for the Vision Pro segment, because we're done.
Now we're done talking the Vision Pro.
Yeah. And we're doing that
Nice.
If you didn't see that in Vision Pro Surround 3D,
You're missing out.
You're missing out, because that was
letters were flying at your head. It was amazing.
Amazing.
All right, you're watching MacBreak Weekly. That's Alex Lindsay. That's Andy Anako. That's Jason Snell. I'm Leo Laporte. Time for our picks of the week on MacBreak Weekly. Jason Snell, what do you got?
Just a little gadget. It's a $30 Anchor surge protector that I got from Amazon.com, and it's really good. I wanted something for a tabletop. And so many of these surge protectors are things you plug into a wall, or they're a big long power strip.
I like this.
And this is little. It's a little square.
It's a little big thing.
It's got 4 plugs on the top. It's got some USB-C and some USB-A on the side. It's got some more plugs on the side, but it's a little. How
many plugs? 8 AC outlets.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of side outlets and top outlets. But what I wanted to do is I have a tabletop in my office where I want to plug a fan or maybe a charger for a laptop that I'm reviewing or whatever it is. And I got tired of having like this big long thing that was too big for the desk, and it would fall behind because it was long. It would end up right on the back, and then it would fall off and go way down into the crack down there. And I'm like, now I got to get it out of there.
How many times has that happened
And this thing, it's got little feet. So you just sit it on the desk and it stays there. and it's $30, and I like it.
And
It's
you can
good.
get it round or flat. Your choice.
Yeah, but I really like the idea that you got plugs on the side and the top, and then you've got some USB as well. I struggle to find good, ergonomically good, like ones I want around me. You can get a power strip or a USB charger anywhere, but like something that I don't have to go down to the outlet, and I also don't have a big long power strip, and this does it for me. So it's a winner.
It's on Prime Day special.
Yeah.
$19.99.
Yeah, normally $20 today.
Actually,
I really like it.
Weird pricing. So it's $19.99 for the white round extension cord. It's $21.99, $2 more for the white flat extension cord. Oh, you want it in black? That'll be another $2.
Well, Apple users are no stranger to paying more for the black version.
I guess
so.
black paint must be so expensive.
Indeed. Anyway, it's good.
I'm going to buy a bunch of them.
A little thing, but it's nice.
Yeah.
Nice for a tabletop or a desktop.
And it has surge suppression.
Yeah, I mean it's not necessarily
it's
going
got a fuse.
Yeah,
but it says 2,000 joules. That's a lot of joules.
Yeah,
I once had a 21 joule watch, and that was thousands of dollars. So 2,000 joules.
Bargain.
That's a deal.
Yep.
Andy Anako, pick of the week.
I bought something very much like that this morning, Jason. What I was saving for Amazon Prime Day were things I was going to be buying for the past couple of months. I decided that I've had it with having some modern chargers and some that are like not high capacity and only have like one whatever. Upgraded all of those, bought a new power strip, that sort of stuff. And what I used before clicking the Buy It Now button, including on those shorts, was Camel, which is something that we've recommended before, but is
yes.
very, very timely during Prime days and during Black Friday. It's a price tracker that goes back for years on Amazon prices. So it's very, very easy to check to see, okay, I'm being promoted this on Prime Day. It says, ooh, wow, what a great deal.
Is it a deal?
Wow.
Is it a
it's
deal?
normally
Yes.
$99 it says, and now it's $43. Yeah, but Camel will tell you that it is routinely sold for like $53, and the sale price is not even the cheapest sale price that it's seen in the past 3 or 4 months. So so I'm glad that the things that I actually bought were things that were actually good deals that were like the least cheapest prices in the past year or two. And it's also good because we'll also give you like alerts, so that there's a display that I was kind of interested in having, but not for like the $530 that it costs. I've kind of wanted to get it at a sale price that it occasionally hits. So you can set up a price alert, say, hey, give me send me an email anytime this specific product at Amazon either hits a certain price or is a good deal, or is at the lowest price it's ever been, or simply goes down by 10%. It's a super, super useful tool and doesn't cost anything. Camel.com.
Very nice. And you know why it doesn't cost anything? Because they're following you everywhere you go on the internet.
But that's a transaction. It saves me money. It gives me something. And I'm saying, okay, I will. That's a fair transaction as far as I'm concerned. If you don't like the transaction, don't.
Yeah, you know what you're getting. My wife loves Rakuten and Honey, and she runs all those things. And I say, but honey, you're being followed around. She said, yes, I do. And see this check? Every time the gosh darn Rakuten check comes, she goes, $53.12. Okay. So you're getting followed around for free on the internet all the time anyway. You might as well get
paid for it.
Get something.
This is like with getting scraped by AI. It's the same idea, right? It's like, look, pay me. Pay me.
That's all.
Yeah.
I know you got to scrape me, but if you're going to scrape me, pay me. Alex had to run. He had a meeting at 1, and so we let him go. But he did leave us with this thought. His pick of the week is Toad the Wet Sprocket.
A band from the 90s, still touring. They got like some videos posted. I go to their concerts too.
I know, you're a Toad fan.
Yeah. So you can check it out. They got some videos that they've been doing, like talking about their albums on the anniversaries, and
nice.
ToadTheWetSprocket.com. I'm sure Alex would have much more to say about it, but we're left with the mystery.
That's all he did, is he just put the link. I think he knew that you would fulfill the...
Anyway, they're really good.
Named after a joke on a Monty Python album.
Indeed.
Not a Monty Python sketch. I gotta be a fan just for that reason.
What was the joke?
It was just a silly name, right? Wasn't it a silly name? Eric
Idle was doing as a music news reporter, saying to all the bands that were performing, and Toad the Red Sprocket, who had their drummer anesthetized, and it's just a silly band name that turned out to have legs, and because Eric Idle didn't patent it or trademark
Indeed. And apparently heard them named on the radio when he was in a cab in LA and almost like fell over because he couldn't believe that what he was hearing.
Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Yeah, very good.
What's that toad doing on the TV? Okay, I think we're done.
I think so.
With that, on that note, what note was that? High C, I believe. Thank you very much. Alex Lindsay would be telling you right now that he does officehours.global every morning. You can find out more at officehours.global. You can watch it on streaming on YouTube. You can even join the Zoom call and be part of it. And he also works for a living. And if you want to hire Alex as the best studio designer, streaming guru ever, 090.media. Plus, he does that show with Michael McCartney. It's so good. Graymatter.show. Andy Anako, what is in your future?
Actually, quickly, what's in my past is I was just on NPR in Boston just a few days ago doing my usual high-tech hidey-ho. Go to WGBHnews.org to stream that. Actually, it was on video, so once again, you get to see me. I decided that last week that wearing a casual shirt over a dress shirt was the way to go. Okay, you can agree or disagree. And you can check me out at Anatko on most social medias, and I hope to have another announcement in 3 weeks' time.
3 weeks' time, ladies and gentlemen.
3 weeks' time.
He is going to come here and rent the studio for us and keep it all going.
This will be the hub of Anatko.com right here.
This is it.
I'm going to need office space. I'm going to need a merchandise fulfillment center, a testing center.
You need it. And I'll throw in the gear for free. Nice. By gear, I don't mean like all the gear. I mean the actual
I understand the think
giant
tanks are
styrofoam gear on the wall.
Nice.
By the way, I just texted my daughter who is on Android, and it was RCS.
Nice.
And then
sweet.
I texted my wife and sent her a black cat emoji reaction, which she said, "What is that?" It says Leo reacted with a black cat.
Yep.
Got to get her on the iOS
summer.
beta as well. Jason Snell, what are you up to this summer?
I'm going on vacation. I'm going to the UK, going to Scotland, going to London. Relay FM, the podcast network that I do Upgrade on, is having its 10th anniversary as well. Lots of 10th anniversaries happening this year. So we were doing a live show in London at the Hackney Empire Theatre. Tickets still available. A few.
How fancy.
Pretty nice. Yeah, this was Mike Hurley's dream to do a show in London.
Good for him.
So we're going to be there, and I'm going to be a game show host. Is the short version of it.
It'll be so much fun.
It's my own calling to be a game show host. So I will not be here next week.
You know why he's doing so well and has so much money? Because he never built a studio.
He did, but he did rent out a theater just for one night only.
He could afford it. I could have rented out a theater too if I'd never built a studio.
But anyway, people should go to sixcolors.com and check out. Dan Morin did an iOS beta preview, and I did a macOS beta preview, and a little teeny tiny one about the iPad because almost nothing happened in the iPad. And check that stuff out.
And then your last summer version of the Six Colors podcast.
Yeah, and then we're taking. We're traveling, both of us separately.
Yeah.
So
well, glad you clarified.
Well, we're both going to Scotland, but we're going to different parts and with our individual partners and not each other.
Oh, he took the high road and I took the low road.
But we'll be at the Hackney Empire together for Relay 10.
In Scotland for ye.
Yeah.
Cupertino. A version of Apple comes out of the mists every 20 years.
Yes.
They're still running macOS 9.2.1 for one day only. Then they go back into the mists.
Think of me.
And work on Cyberdog.
Yes, think of me next Tuesday. I will be wandering the islands of the Highlands.
Have a wonderful time.
So, yes.
Oh, that sounds great.
It'll be great.
And drinks a wee dram of whiskey,
indeed,
I'm sure.
And it'll be cold and rainy, but that's okay. It's Scotland.
It always is.
It's always cold and rainy.
That's where my people are from.
Yeah.
That's why I always have an umbrella. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Alex. Thanks to all of you. Thanks especially to our lovely Club Twit members who literally made this show possible. If you're not yet a member of Club Twit and you want to see us survive and thrive, it's easy. It's just $7 a month. You get all of our shows ad-free, get video for shows we only put out in audio. You also get bonus content like Stacy's Book Club, Micah's Creative Corner. And as soon as we set up the Attic Studio, I'm going to start doing office hours. We'll have some fun. Maybe have people come in and visit and things like that. And maybe we'll even cook. All of this for the club. You also get access to the Club Twit Discord, which gives you access to a community of really smart, fun, interesting people. $7 a month. We should charge more, but we don't. You can pay more if you want. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. And thank you in advance for your support. We really, really appreciate it. All right. that's about it for the show. We'll see you next week. We won't see you next week. Are you going to go on for 2 weeks, 1 week?
I will be back for the 30th. I will be back. You'll get me jet lagged.
Good. John Ashley, we got somebody to put in that chair.
He knows already.
Oh, of course
he knows. He knows.
We decided this.
Yes.
We've already even decided who's going in that chair.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
Who is it, Leo?
I don't know. Should I know?
Yeah.
Is it Howard Cosell?
No.
Is it Doc Rock?
No.
Is it Micah Sargent?
Yes.
Oh, Mikey Sargent. I love
want
him.
Micah on, so I was like, okay.
He's the cutest. It'd be great. Yeah, we think the world of Micah. And with your help, Club Twit members, we can keep paying Micah. And so we want to make sure we use him as much as we possibly can. He'll be here next Tuesday. That's fun. That'll be great. Thanks, everybody, for joining us now. As I have said for some time now, we are, this is episode, 900 something? 930. Whew. That's a lot. For 930 times I've said this now. And I'm not tired of it yet. Get back to work, because break time is over. Bye-bye.